Welcome to issue 261 of Critical Encounters, a podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Here, we take a good look at that most critical piece of the game, the encounter sets. We'll discuss those poorly understood characters, unfairly labeled villains, and their various plans to shape humanity and benefit the planet, as well as those so-called heroes intent on thwarting them. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, aka Scarlet Roddick, and I'm here with Steve.
Hello.
Hello, good to see you again.
Yes. Yes, it is good to see me again.
Of course. And of course, Daniel's here.
Hello, Chris. Welcome back.
Thank you.
100%.
Thank you. It's like I never left.
Hey, that was really well read, that intro. Nice job.
Oh, wait, thank you. Yeah. So, from practicing, weeks even.
There you go. Yeah.
So Daniel.
Yeah.
What's on your mind tonight?
Gratitude, Chris.
Oh.
I am thankful for a new patron who joined our Patreon. This is Kevin Fitz. Steve, you know Kevin Fitz, I imagine.
I don't know Kevin Fitz. I mean,
you know him as well as you know anyone you've extracted money from.
He's like one of our infinites. So yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Kevin Fitz, thank you so much. You came at, I think, a great time where we were looking for, it sounds harsh to use the word dummy, Steve, but we needed an information extraction test dummy. We just needed to make sure that our techniques were kind of sufficient to obtain information on our subjects. And we don't want to, we just don't want to waste valuable time. We just sort of need someone to practice on over and over and over. So Kevin, thank you for volunteering for that.
Yeah, we have a special chair for you. It's very comfortable wrist straps. Yeah, we need to improve our technique so when we capture these agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or these heroes, we like you said, we don't waste any time. Yeah, so thank you for volunteering to perfect our technique in information extraction.
After a while, Kevin, you won't feel a thing.
Yeah.
So thanks.
What are feelings even?
Okay. Yeah. Really, Kevin, thank you for being a patron. Thank you to all our patrons. We really appreciate it. It does help. It's great that people are able to donate, and we have had our contests, and we've done various things with that money. We're trying to help people out with it as well. So thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. I did recently post a thing about Patreon. If you're utilizing the Apple iTunes Store app version of Patreon, they have raised their rates on what they're taking. They're taking like 30%. So if you want to be a new patron, please just go to the Patreon webpage directly and become a patron there. Less goes to the man and more goes to the villain man. So us.
Right, because Steve was already taking 30% off the top to send his kids to college. So
yes, it is not a very good college they're going to. It's a Taskmaster school for gifted villains, but they're still going there. So
yeah. Thanks. That when you posted that today, Steve, I was flummoxed by it. I was like, really? You can do that? Okay.
Yep.
I guess making money is what those corporations just keep trying to do.
Yeah.
Seems bizarre. And hey, that contest that we started talking about last week, that's still going on about getting a ticket to Con of Heroes. My ticket, which, I wish that I could use, but am I excited to hand it over to a valued winner of our contest. So thanks. You got about another week.
As a bonus, if you have Daniel's ticket, that means you will get to play a game with Michael and I. Guaranteed. Yeah.
Guaranteed.
At least one. So if you can stomach more, I'm sure we'll play more.
And if last year is any indication, you'll also play 17 games with Maka.
He's not coming.
Oh, man. All right. Well, right. Then you're on your own. After that one game with Mike and Steve, you're just going to wander aimlessly.
No, we wouldn't make you wander
through the streets of Minnesota.
Yeah. Bring a coat.
Yeah.
Seriously.
For real. So looking forward to reading those contest contributions and giving my ticket over to someone who's totally worthy. Steve.
Yes.
Last week we talked about Unus, and we talked about how There's just not a lot of Unus out there, if you know what I mean. But yet, you've cobbled together a bookshelf like you often do for these villains. What on earth are people supposed to read if they want to get their Unus on?
All right, this is not about Unus or Unus like I tried to start last week.
What?
What? So you made a bookshelf. Okay, so we're doing Unus 2. So I fall into the trap of thinking that you're going to bookshelf about Unus. And now you're telling me, okay. Chris, were you also a little bamboozled by this one?
I can't trust a single thing you've ever said now.
Never.
Wait a minute.
What else is a lie, Steve?
Well, it's all lies.
Okay, fair.
But I listened to a very well told lore segment last week by Chris where he said Unus appeared on 5 pages in one book. So clearly there can't be a whole bookshelf dedicated to this mook. It's a very small bookshelf. So what I've done instead, since this is the beginning of our Age of Apocalypse box, is I have a reading list for folks who are interested in the Age of Apocalypse. Okay, we're starting off here, so maybe it's an opportunity for folks to go out and read the Age of Apocalypse storyline. They want to know where to start. There's a lot of comics involved. So that's the bookshelf that I have. And it can start with Unus because we're going to start with the book that he is in.
You know what, Steve? This is wicked smart. Nice job.
Thank you. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to link a couple links. Comic Book Herald webpage and the Complete Marvel Reading Order by Travis Starnes both give you some interesting reading lists. I like the cmro.travisstarnes.com one the best because he has like all the issues like woven together. So you can, if you want to read them as they were released at the time, you can, or you can. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that way. It's a little harder, I think, but it is very easy to follow along with. And everything in this series is available on Marvel Unlimited. So if you have that, you can go and read all this. You don't have to buy it. They also did come out with some, I think they're called trade paperbacks or kind of like an omnibus where you can go pick up some very specific books that include multiple comic books within one. And that's where the Comic Book Herald kind of gives you, they're like, go get this collected guide, go get this collected book sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, trades are very nice.
Yeah. I'm a digital kind of guy. I have the service.
What a villain.
Service. Yeah. I pay for it though. I pay for it.
That's true. We do.
Okay. So let's break this down for folks. I don't want to get too granular because it can get kind of hard to follow along. I know, like if you're just listening, but there are 39 books to read if you want all of the Age of Apocalypse involved with basically our box, for all intents and purposes. So you can actually go out. There's a 2-part series called X-Men Chronicles number 1 and 2 from 1995. You can start with that one. And then it sort of has some information generally around the series, but really where it really starts is X-Men Alpha number 1, 1995. That's where you'll find Unus and all the story that Chris talked about on the 295 version of Unus or Unus. Okay. That's the first, that's a standalone one shot right there. Then we're going to go into a whole series. All the X books at the time were Age of Apocalypse. And there was effectively like a 4-book run for all of the following that I'm going to mention. So you could just read each. What I'm doing now is I'm reading each series 1 through 4, 1 through 4, 1 through 4, 1 through 4. But you could go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, like that if you wanted to try to keep up with the timeline. But I found that just reading a whole run of Astonishing X-Men from 1995, starting at number 1, 2, 3, and 4 is perfect. I don't lose that storyline, and it's not really impacting the other ones too badly. So Astonishing X-Men number 1, Excalibur number 1. You can see a lot of X names. Gambit and the Externals number 1. Okay, Generation Next with a big capital X in the middle of the word number 1. Weapon X number 1. Amazing X-Men number 1. Factor X number 1 and X-Man number 1. And then those are basically all 4-book series. So any of those, you go pick one up, read through the 4, pick up the next one, read through the next one. I would start with Astonishing X-Men, and then maybe Amazing X-Men, and then break into all the other ones, whichever one piques your fancy. The Excalibur is focused on Nightcrawler and Mystique. Gambit and the Externals is focused on surprise, surprise, Gambit. Generation Next so far has been my least favorite. I don't like the art style. That's focused on Colossus and Magic. Shadowcat's in there. Weapon X is Wolverine and Jean Grey. And this is an alternate storyline, so you're going to see different characters, different relationships. Like in Weapon X, it's Wolverine and Jean Grey are lovers, and Scott's Cyclops is a bad guy in this series. Him and his brother Havoc are working for Sinister, and they're bad guys, so they're not part of the X-Men, which is interesting when you read these different alternate timeline stories. I haven't gotten into Factor X or X-Man yet, so I can't tell you what's in them. But so then when those are all done, I think Factor X focuses on Angel a little bit. And all your favorites are in these, like Deadpool's in it. You name a X character and you'll find him in one of these books, either as a good guy or a bad guy, and maybe not what you would expect. And then the whole thing ends with X-Men Omega, #1, also 1995. So you start with Alpha and you end with Omega, and you read all these other ones in between. And that's going to give you everything you need to know for Age of Apocalypse. That's my bookshelf. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
Wow.
Which, that's not super intimidating.
A brief bookshelf, like a brief Unus.
Right. Yeah, it's turned out to be not too intimidating because, like, the one reading order is really great. I just sort of, okay, Alpha, you click the link, it takes you to your Marvel Unlimited page, you read it. Okay, and then I go to Astonishing X-Men, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I go back, and what's the next one that he lists, right? Oh, it's Excalibur's next?
Yeah.
Great. I click that one. And they tie in, and they're interacting with one another to a point, right? Magneto's in charge of the X-Men. He's the hero. Xavier's dead, spoiler alert, which happens in our comic. And Magneto takes over, he becomes the hero, and he's leading the X-Men doing his thing. It does follow along pretty well with some of our comic books in our box, or at least you can see where they're drawing their inspiration from, and why we didn't get a Beast hero, and we did get a Magneto, and we got an Iceman, and things like that. So why we got a Magic, stuff like that. So
cool. Should we talk about some cards?
Yeah, we should talk about some cards. Let's talk about Unus's cards. So we have to talk about part 2. Right. So Unus is our first scenario in the Age of Apocalypse box. 14 total cards, 8 by title, and tonight we will talk about 6 cards. I've been talking a little bit, so who wants to go on a hunt?
Wait a minute. We only talked about 2 cards last week.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Are you telling me there's literally 3 handfuls of cards in this set?
There's less than a hero set.
14 actual cards. Yeah.
14 cards. Oh my god. This is
8 by title.
This has got to be the tiniest encounter set of all time. Though I feel like I recently said that after another one, but geez.
I feel like those collector ones were really tiny.
So what they did was they really started breaking cards out into modular sets, right? Like Zola was 32 cards in Zola's set.
Remember
right?
that?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about how Zola would be 15 cards now, and you'd have Mutate modular set, and you'd have, a tech set and stuff like that. And that's what they're doing now. So we're getting these smaller villain sets, but more modular sets, which I think is great.
That's great. That's more episodes for us.
Right.
Well, Chris, why don't you tell us about the minions that come in this set?
Happy to. So we have the Infinite Hunter. There are 2 copies of it. It's a minion with 2 scheme, 3 attack, 4 hit points, the Infinite trait, and the ability, when revealed, deal 3 damage to an ally you control. And it has that's spicy. And it has a boost icon, and so special boost icon. Choose to either place 2 threat on Gene Pool, or the activating enemy gets +2 scheme and +2 attack for this activation. The Hunter's a bit tough, and to have 2 of them. And especially when you think about how this that, Unus must have the infinites, which includes Gene Pool. And Gene Pool says that if an ally leaves to anything other than consequential damage, you're adding threat to Gene Pool. So this having this like ally hate immediately just is like helping to just keep pumping up Gene Pool.
Which is why I don't understand the boost effect.
Well, I think that's a nice like.
Why not have it 2 threat on Gene Pool or deal 3 damage to an ally? Like, give a choice, but keep it in on brand for when the hunter comes out. I don't know. Just seems like we could play more with Gene Pool a little bit. So
yeah, the boost is basically put 2 threat or this has 2 boost icons on it, and maybe we're trying to trump block with a high health ally.
Oh yeah,
and you're gonna right or okay, I'm gonna try to use Gru ally to defend, and then you're like, oh okay, I guess I still end up having to put threat out because I don't want the 2 boost because it would kill me. But I mean, we learned. I mean, boost. Think about this: who's activating? It's Unus, and for the most part, and Unus's attacks are a 2, a 2, or a
2
3.
and 3.
If you put an expert at 3. So it's not like you're counting on, okay, maybe he's attacking for 4.
He's attacking for 2/2 with a card. So he's probably attacking for 3 to 5. Your ally that you're jumping with, like, nobody's jumping allies.
Right.
Against this stuff. And so having one that just pings them unexpectedly, like the when revealed of this card, would be cool, but the boost actually lets you mitigate it a little bit by putting threat instead. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe the ally hate's a little tough, or it could even be just put 2 threat in Gene Pool or take 2 indirect damage, right? Because then you're like, I'm still going to take damage. Or maybe I have to put it on my ally. Like, that could be an interesting piece. So
yeah, that could be good.
I don't know if the theme is there for a sniper type, but yeah, I love the when revealed effect. So
yeah, that's crazy. So and plus the 3 attack.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that if it survives, but like the stats it has 2 scheme and 3 attack, like those are high. I feel for a minion, who's not like an elite minion or like a unique one. Yeah. To be just kind of like a rando, and to have 2 of these in an already relatively small encounter deck. So
yeah, the 4 health puts it just out of reach of like a 1 swing. You have to think about how do I have to attack with my hero and my ally to take him down, that kind of thing, right? So
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely in the top 10 of like rando minions for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Whenever we get around to making that list, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, all right.
And he's not elite, so he's just a regular.
No.
He's just a dude.
Yeah. He's a good target for like Jean Grey mind control or something, so that he stays out and doesn't get shuffled back in.
And especially with that like 3 attack or like karma or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not that I'm trying to give the heroes hints, but
but sometimes they need it.
You gotta throw a bone to those morons sometimes.
Right.
Well, let me tell you about a treachery in this deck called Infinite Prelate. When revealed, Unus activates against you. If the amount of threat on Gene Pool is at least 3, give him a tough status card. 6, heal 3 damage from Unus as well. 9, give Unus an additional boost card for this activation as well. The as well is like a funny way of writing what they mean, but like this is not how I, as an English teacher, would have written the card up. But I get it. Because do they as well anything else about like Gene Pool and all that? They don't, right?
Well, Unus says like 6 threat. Unus also gains Stalwart.
Yeah.
He also gains.
And then wait, where does it say about Gene Pool? It says something too about like the Infinite Soldiers also gain.
They have because
so it's like why not
stuff.
just keep it? Yeah, it's a little clunky with the as well at the end. I just think it's funny.
I think it's sort of like because none of those 3 are like a gain. Like you can't gain a boost card that like the game, like that's not what gain means in the game. So it kind of added to like they had to come up with some funky stuff to explain it.
And they're trying to indicate that if there's 9 on there, you need to do bullet point 3, bullet point 6, bullet point 9, all of them together, not just one of them.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of the as well at the end of these things because it's not like they've ever worded anything else. That's a little clunky.
Yeah.
So
tough card though.
Timing wise, right? So what happens is he activates against you, meaning he just sort of like, hey, I'm attacking you, Steve, at which point all of these bullet points go off as much as they can, right?
Right.
Not just attack, but like I think I
scheme too
because of this, because of a scheme.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like he activates, but it's at that point where the bullets go off, right?
Yes, yeah. And you look at the amount of threat at that point. So yeah, that's a lot.
You draw this card. He attacks or schemes. Then he gets his tough card. Then he heals 3 damage. He gets a second boost card for this activation, which could be an infinite hunter.
That's true. Yes, it could. Yeah. And we were talking about last week his health is like mediocre at best. Mm-hmm. This heal 3, I think, especially in solo, that's a lot. That's like a fair amount of attack. Like
it's a punch.
It's a good punch. And so where he gets healed right back up. And honestly, it's like what, a quarter of his like first version? Because he only has 12 health. It proportionally feels big in solo. I'm sure it does not scale well for multiplayer.
Yeah, health.
They never do, but that's right.
Yeah.
Daniel, did you mention that there's 2 boost icons on this?
I did not. Forgive me.
Yeah, and there's 2 of them. So
how dare you?
Okay.
I know. I'm the worst.
Unus does not join the fight without some armor. He has his high-tech infinite armor. So let me tell you about his prelate armor attachment. It is armor traded attached to Unus. It gives him +1 scheme. The forced response after Unus schemes, give him a tough status card. Okay. Hero response. After you make a basic attack against Unus, spend Nerd Punch resources. Discard this card. 3 boost icons. Okay. So he's wearing armor. I like the tough.
Yeah. He has like I feel like a sub-theme of toughness. Like, because he starts with it. And then he gets it a lot.
Yeah, compensating for the low health. Trying to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So in order to remove this armor, you must make a basic attack, and you have to spend, a mental and a physical resource. So that's a good dedication because he could be retaliating as well. He could have retaliate on him.
Yeah.
Yep. He doesn't have to take damage or anything. You just have to make the attack. So, and you could have a stun on you because of War Weary, because that modular set's in here.
Yeah.
So I do like that it's forcing you to attack him and spend resources to get his armor off. So you got to get in close. The art's interesting. I think he's holding like the X-Men symbol from maybe ripped it off the mansion and is like, look what I got.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah. And I will say that's a cool effect that they did with the Infinite's like eye glow sort of thing on the card. Yeah. So, yeah, it's good art.
Okay. Well, he's got an armor and he's got something else with him, Chris. What else has he got with him?
Oh, why, he's got a prelate sidearm. May or may not be made out of plastic. Who knows? This is a weapon traded attachment attached to Unus. It's +1 attack with a forced response. After Unus attacks and defeats an ally, place 1 threat on Gene Pool. Hero response. After you make a basic attack against Unus, spend a lightning bolt and a fist, resources, discard this card, and it has 3 boost icons. This is the one that I dislike way more than the armor.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, because like if he does defeat an ally, that's gonna be like 4 threat on Gene Pool, basically, because the 3 from like the ally being defeated, not through consequential damage, and then this extra one, and that's a hefty amount of threat on that.
Yeah, they're definitely jump block. There's ally hate here, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
you got to have a different tactic against him if you don't want gene pool going up. So, hey, what are your thoughts on the 3 boost icons for these 2 attachments instead of the attachments coming out?
That's kind of worse.
I think it is. Geez, I don't know. I mean,
3's good, right? 3's good. We need some 3s.
we need 3s, but there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of 3s here.
I wonder if they experimented with that at all. What do you think, Daniel?
I don't know. Do you what kind of experiments might you be talking about, Steve?
Genetic ones.
Of that variety?
Yeah.
That's curious.
That was an awkward transition. I tried.
I wonder what kind of condition that would lead to. Maybe it would lead to a +1 scheme, +1 attack attachment.
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps.
That you might attach to an infinite minion. Otherwise, it gains surge if you can't. The attached minion gets +2 hit points with a force interrupt. When attached minion is defeated, place 2 threat on gene pool. It also has a special boost icon only. Attach this card to an infinite minion. Wow.
Yeah, this is a good one for this set.
This
There's 2
is
of them.
so good.
Yeah.
I think it's good up until that boost. And I say this is
The boost is lame, but when you put it on the Infinite Hunter, it's okay, kind of.
yeah,
Right.
but like I guess from
want
my
it
solo
coming out.
perspective. Oh yeah. I think from my solo perspective, you don't see as many minions as you do in a multiplayer game. So this to me is the one that can whiff the most.
Sure. Yeah, if you're clearing the minions turn after turn and you don't, nothing's left. But yeah, multiplayer, right? There's 7 minions in the deck. If you're playing it as suggested.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
So which is like a third of the deck so far before you throw in standard.
Yeah, and the infinite soldier guys have guard, so you have to take them out if you want to win.
Yep.
So they're harder to take out, and they're putting threat out. Yeah, and +1/+1 is pretty. I mean, I like this card, but you're right. You could, if you're keeping up on the minions.
Yeah.
But if you're not keeping up on gene pool, a minion could come out and surge into this.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Oof. I am curious why it's a force interrupt and not a win defeated effect. Oh, I guess no. I just answered my own question in my head. Yeah, because you're not defeating the attachment. You have to defeat the minion. Yeah, don't mind me. I'm dumb.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. That's a technical bit there. So
yeah.
So if you could somehow remove the attachment, you can't.
Nope.
Even with like Sunspot or whatever, it doesn't have the right wording on it, so you can't really get rid of it.
There is nothing in the game, right, to do that yet?
No, there's a couple of those cards where it's like, if an attachment says hero action,
right?
Then it can be removed, right? That replaces a hero action, but
just like a stone cold attachment killer, we don't have that yet, right?
Doesn't exist.
I don't
think so.
Especially with the minion ones, like it's so like you're just stuck with them.
Yeah,
just gotta
interesting.
Defeat the minion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this is a good card.
I do like it. I like anything that punishes you for winning. You know?
Right, for doing what you're
like
supposed
those
to do.
side schemes, like undefeated. Ha ha. You know, I love it. So.
Oh, well, then you're gonna like this card, Daniel. Let me tell you about the last card. Yeah, the last card in Unus set. There's 2 of them called Endless Ranks, and it is a side scheme with 4 threat, just 4, 2 boost icons, an acceleration icon, and your beloved, when defeated, place 3 threat on gene pool.
Ah, yes.
There you go. It's not a crisis, but it's an acceleration. So if you leave it because you don't want the threat on gene pool, it is pushing him towards victory at least. So
yeah, and I love when you defeat it. Like it guarantees, like kicks up all of these things a notch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've played some games where I'm like, do I even touch this? What is gonna happen? Like, what's the depending on where you are in the game, are you almost gonna win, or does this come out as like your first encounter card, and then you're
how
like,
many cheaty justice players are you with?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you defeat this and also 3 more threat from gene pool? Right. You have 7 threat available, or at least a couple points to knock gene pool back down.
Yeah.
So again, I like the art. I think they did a good job on most of this art. So
Yeah,
it kind of
I
feels
agree.
like they're endless. They're jumping. They're coming at you. I mean, clearly there's not an infinite number of them, but it feels good like they're charging forward. I'd like
Yeah,
to see the whole piece because I bet there's more to it.
for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there we go. Unus
There it is. Yeah.
Let's do
1 and
this.
2. Yep. What do
Yeah.
we think? What do you think? First villain in the box?
Oh, I said it's a more fun scenario than the lore or the interesting aspects of the character Unus himself would let you believe. I have fun with this scenario. I think it's fun.
I agree with that. Yes. Yeah. It's I think surprisingly tough or can be tough depending. Like cuz if anything sort of just like leads you on this like gene pool death spiral, where you're like, "Oh no. I can't dig myself out of it." But yeah, it feels flavorful and I like that it's very, you know, what's the word? Interdependent. Like it has its
Good word.
mechanic and yeah. And it knows what it wants to do and it does it. And I like that.
Yeah, it has a fairly cohesive theme. It doesn't
Yeah, that's the
it might
word.
be a little repetitive, but like it feels like it should be. So it's to me that part feels okay. Like it's kind of doing a lot of the same thing. The cards, but like you said, they're interdependent, but not necessarily
Yeah.
boring.
And it does make you play differently. I mean,
Mhm.
so many of us are so accustomed to like ally, right? Like you do 2 activations and then they block for you and that sort of thing. But you have to really rethink how you play in a lot of ways, which I do appreciate because you can't do your normal stuff. And, especially probably for us people like me who don't really play protection and don't understand what defending means or what that like whole stat is. It's a lot.
Yeah. The other thing I find with this one is I like to build a tableau there, right? I like to have a billion
Oh,
cards. But the longer you do that, the more dangerous gene pool becomes, and it's possible that you start to fall behind.
yeah.
He's sort of a candidate for the rush,
Yep.
right? Like he only has 12 health. If we can pop a tough and knock him, we can already get to level 2. Like you kind of have to keep moving, otherwise you can just get overwhelmed with the slow plod. Yeah.
Yeah. As a rush player, yes, he is very like, ooh, I can get him out like very fast, and then yeah, until other things happen, like you get some bad cards.
Or maybe you really have to focus on justice. Like I'm just never gonna let gene pool go over 2, right? Like I'm gonna knock it to 0 all
Yeah.
the time. But then you got to worry about the other side schemes and
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
That's
do
a
we need to
decent
letter
one.
grade this thing?
Yeah,
Yes,
I think we
do.
need
Yeah.
to. I think we need to.
Um.
So before we letter grade it, let's also remember Dystopian Nightmare is one of the modular sets. It has 2 cards that have a hazard, meaning more infinites. 2 cards that have a crisis that when you clear, you get confused, so it's harder to remove threat from gene pool. And 2 cards that stun you or deal damage to you, which makes it harder for you to rush. So like, yeah, I think
Now,
they
that's
did a
all.
good.
Yeah.
That's all well and good,
Yeah.
Steve. That's all well and good, but when we're grading, we can't grade with Dystopian Nightmare in mind. It's merely recommended.
Recommend. Right. Okay. With infinites and when infinites is required, so we can remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Give us a grade then, Daniel.
I'm going to give it a B, mostly because it's sort of samey and all that kind of stuff. But like, I do enjoy this scenario. The first time I played it actually was when Lexicon came to DC for the first time,
Oh.
and we played this, and I thought it was great. I mean, we dismantled it in a heartbeat because of some magic deck that I played that he made. But
Okay.
yeah, it was cool. I like the thing that I give it a low grade for actually makes it easy to run and understand. You know what I mean? Like there's not a lot of moving parts. It's not super fiddly. It's got a thing it does, and you just need to be able to count.
Yeah, and the thing it's doing isn't like you look. I'm putting threat on the main scheme and on gene pool. I'm putting right. There are a few reminders, like remembering that your ally died to non-consequential damage can be a thing, and I have missed that in the past. Right, like maybe I'm playing too fast.
That's easy.
Or I'm cheating because I'm a hero.
Yeah, good point.
But like you said, then everything just references back to Gene Pool, right? So you just
It's a straightforward set
Yeah.
that
Right.
gives a very good challenge.
I found I will play this one often. Since this came out, I play this more than like Ebony Maw or any of the starter ones. Like for some reason I find like it's easy to set up. I know what I'm getting into. I can kind of play my deck. Can I handle threat? Can I handle minions? Can I deal with stunned and confused? Like I don't know. In my brain space, it's easy enough for me to go up against and see how my deck is doing, what I'm playing in. So
It is a
I
great tester scenario.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah.
What about you, Chris?
I don't know. I came into this and knowing that we were going to talk about this like pretty low on Unus. I found this scenario when I first played the box to be like pretty mid for me. Like I didn't care that much for it. And I think part of it is just he's not a character I literally care about. Because I will play,
nobody knows anything about the guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
nobody
they
does.
do now.
Yeah.
They do now, but they didn't beforehand. So.
Right, because I'll play scenarios for characters that or people hate. I love Absorbing Man still to this day, but I think playing it again to refresh myself before this and prep and talking about it and really thinking about the cards. I actually have pushed it up in my brain. I would say B plus, maybe A minus, because I think it is well designed together, and I think as a starter, if you do compare it to the other starters, it's probably a very high one for me. I greatly dislike Sabretooth and Ebony Maw, and I feel like there was a few other ones that I'm like on. But yeah, I think it's a good tester. It's a good, just all around easy one to kind of throw out there. There's maybe one or two things that you might kind of forget to do, but I think it is a pretty solid set, and that's nice. Yep. And you can kind of change it up a bit with the modular set you choose. Dystopian Nightmare is probably a bit on the almost vanilla side, but also frustrating. But you add something a little harder in there, and the whole thing gets harder, right? Or if you're looking for just more of a casual night, you could probably put something a little less, maybe a bomb scare type one, and where you're not getting much outside of the infinite flavor. But yeah, it's solid. I've turned a page on it.
Nice.
Yeah. I was going to say, the modular set, right? Even just modular sets of this box, you can throw in Dark Riders who have teamwork, and there's 5 or 6 more minions, right? Which makes a big difference. But you can play any of those Savage Lands or Genosha or Blue Moon, which completely changes because every time you activate, something completely different happens because of their environment. So there's a ton of options, I think, for him. And you don't, because Infinites is required and the gene pool works the way it does, you don't lose out on the core piece of it. You add flavor or difficulty to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or remove difficulty from it, right? You could put in something a lot simpler. So.
Yep.
All right. Awesome.
Great. Yeah.
How are folks going to let us know what they think, Steve?
Yeah. Tell us your Infinite Unus experience. Have you been unused like we have been?
Have you been infinitely unused?
Yes. You can email us at criticalencounterspod@gmail.com. We are Critical Encounters on Facebook, and you can find our YouTube, Twitch, or Patreon by searching for Critical Encounters Podcast. And on Discord, we are Vardane, Big Phone Loaf, and Scarlet Roadie. If you like our show, tell your friends. If you don't like our show, please, really, tell your enemies. Unus, take us out.
The Infinites live up to the name. No matter how many you defeat, they keep making more.
Here's my challenge. Here's my Unus challenge. Play a game where you are not allowed to remove threat from gene pool ever.
Oh, God. That would be horrible.
And you do it before it's... once it hits 9, you just sort of leave it there.
Right? It doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Yeah,
after
no.
9, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even started at 0 at the start of the game. Put it at 0 and just never remove threat from it. So.
I like it.
Yeah, I think that's the fairer way to just start at 0
Start at 0
and then
take it
let
up.
it accumulate. Yeah, because it does, for real.